Hey there, I hope you're doing well. This is podcast number 5 in the series of APIs and API Gateway. In the last 4, we talked about a number of different things. There's quite a bit that we talked about, so I'm not going to just, either jog my own memory or yours, unfortunately, so please go check it out. But I know where I left off. In the last one, I left off talking specifically about a lot of the features that the gateway does support or will support, our gateway and gateways in general, but I was speaking to our gateway, which does quite a few things, so hopefully you can check them out and benefit from it. And in this one I said we're going to talk about API monetization, right? This is a broad topic, but let me get into the aspects of API monetization that we've actually had to learn and get into during the course of what we are doing for our first release, right? It's going to change, it's going to keep evolving, I should say, but we have a way that we know we're going to monetize that in our first release. So once you have an API and you have a number of endpoints, how do you make money, right? There's many different ways to making money, but one most obvious way to making money is you publish the API, you charge per request. You're going to say, hey, I have these endpoints, I'm going to price them exactly the same. Every endpoint is going to cost you whatever it is that it's going to cost you, right? I think typically it varies between, I would say, I don't know, $6 to $12 for 1,000 requests, something along those lines, right? $6 to $12 for 1,000 requests, correct, in that range from what I've seen. So you price it at the request level, which means every request you give a bunch, maybe 100 free credits for 100 requests, and then after that you start charging, right? And it's basically the even charge. That's one way of doing it, the simple way of doing it. But there's other ways, there's a number of ways you could do it, and you're going to have to keep tweaking and altering as you learn from your customers, right? Some providers give you n number of credits for free to begin with, like I mentioned, 100 or whether it's 500 or whatever that number calculates to. After those credits, they have a subscription, right? It kicks in. So you need to pay for a monthly subscription or maybe an annual subscription. They have a number of plans, and each plan gives you an X number of credits. And maybe there are overage charges. So if you purchase the basic plan, it gives you 1,000 API endpoint requests or 1,000 credits. And let's say each request translates to 1 credit, so you have 1,000 requests that you could make across all HTTP verbs. And I'm talking REST endpoints, but you can sort of extrapolate this to graph as well. Then after 1,000, after you exhaust those requests, you either could get charged overages, or you'll have to go to the next plan, for instance, right? Or maybe it doesn't even serve your request, or however you want to facilitate that, right? So you're going to say you pay so much, you pay more after the 1,000th request, or you go to the next plan, and in the next plan you're going to get 10,000 requests right before you get, and your cost might reduce per request. So essentially, if you charge $7 for 1,000 requests in the first plan, you may charge $6 for the next 9,000 requests or something, right? So you get the idea, and that's one play, tiered pricing. There's a number of, it's an art and a science mixed, right? It's a mixed bag when it comes to pricing of anything for that matter. So you can check it out, see what works best for you from a pricing standpoint. We have a way we're going to price our endpoints, which, we're going to, support plans and whatnot, but we're going to start quite simple because all of our energy, 95% of our energy is spent in actually getting the API available, working and functional, stable and performant and out there to our consumers. With a pricing plan, and then we're going to spend a little more energy trying to improve upon our pricing strategies as we launch more APIs and release more versions of our existing APIs, right? So that's monetization. Now, how do you go about monetizing this, right? Again, there's probably many different options. Here is what we are kind of going with. So it's a direct, practical, pragmatic example. AWS Marketplace is one of the first places we'll be publishing our API to, right? So in the last videos, I talked about the gateway's functionality itself. That is different from the marketplace, right? When I say API gateway on AWS, that's the core functionality of the API and the gateway's existence itself, where it's being deployed to, right? Using serverless computing and whatnot. Yeah, the AWS Marketplace is where you have to monetize. So essentially, we're going to publish your API on the marketplace. So much like you go to Amazon.com to find a product, you're going to go to the AWS Marketplace to consume other services offered by companies. You're going to look for Snowpal, you're going to click subscribe, and then a number of things happen behind the scenes, after which you'll be given an API key, and you will use the API key to make your request, and then based on the plan, the usage plan that you're associated with, that you actually picked when you subscribe, you're going to be charged at that rate essentially, right? So that's a pricing model. We talked about pricing, we talked about the user experience that onboarding This is the onboarding experience. You go to AWS Marketplace, click subscribe, find Snowpal, subscribe, and then you get an API key by email and you start using the API key. You go to Postman, download the workspace, stick the API key, replace the environment variable with the actual API that was sent to you, and then you start making requests and you're good to go. It's as simple as that, right? That's how simple your experience is going to be. Now you can start focusing your energies on building your app, mobile or web or server-side systems or back-end applications or whatever it is that you're doing. Now you can focus on your core business problem and not worry about the underlying sort of the functionality, the boilerplate stuff, if you will, right, that you do not have to build. How do I sign up? How do I sign in? How do I do social media sign up using Microsoft or Google or Facebook or Apple or even just email password signups, resetting passwords, creating projects, keys, more content, just for doing everything we support in our system. You can start coding in minute 10, I should say, right? It should be literally as simple as that, and we expect it for it to be as simple as that, even starting our very first release, because we are all developers and we treat ourselves as though we're not providers of our own API, to just kind of understand the end user experience, and where there will be gaps, we're going to fix and address them as we go. That's monetization. Option 1 is AWS Marketplace, right? The second is, now you're going to say, what about systems like you probably heard of Rapid API. They rebranded themselves, and I believe they call themselves Rapid now. I still think of them as Rapid API. A lot of the internal language hasn't changed either. They have a marketplace where you can publish your API. Now that is an option, and we will very well, we might end up doing that. But that's typically, it's like a large marketplace. I don't know how much vetting, if any, they do at all. So it's hard to tell the credibility of the providers. Right now, we exist as a company registered in the US, been around for years. Our systems are powered through our endpoints, and I'm doing these videos. We see a lot of our content and writing out there, so we are legit, which may or may not be the case for everybody that's publishing out there. And there's been a lot of simple, fun endpoints too that some developer wants to publish. Great, they want to check it out, they publish, right? But it doesn't provide any value, any meaningful value to anybody, so you can build your system based on that. And even if you did, how do you know if those endpoints are going to continue to run, what the SLA is, how they scale, and all that kind of stuff? I could be wrong, but I don't believe, from my understanding, my conversations with Rapid so far, if they would actually ensure that from a public marketplace standpoint, which is why they actually have Enterprise Hub, and they have something called a Business Beta Hub, which we are in talks with, and we might end up actually leveraging that. So there is a public hub, which is a marketplace which may or may not fit our needs. And then there's this Enterprise Hub, which is for much larger organizations, apparently, that have hundreds and hundreds of APIs. We will be there one day, but not there yet. So our needs are not there. And also, it has functionality that really doesn't benefit us in terms of what we're trying to do initially, or for a bit. So the business hub that they're going to provide, which is going to be in beta, which I'm kind of eager and curious about, because that might suit our needs. You don't send somebody to the Rapid Marketplace when they check out, and you don't expect people to find you there as well, because the search engine optimization, from what I've seen on Rapid, has been very poor, to say the least. I've never ever searched for anything from an API standpoint on Google that has redirected me to the Rapid Marketplace, right? That's something they probably will work on, one would hope, but it's not there yet. So you'll have to go to Rapid and then do the search, which means somebody needs to know their system and their existence already, which is an if. But even if they do, I don't know how their search responds, what the algorithms are, which APIs it presents, where credibility shows in there, how many endpoints, SLAs. It can get as complex as you can imagine. While I don't know the exact answer, I have no reason to believe that all of that intelligence is built into their search at this point. So just publishing it there and expecting magic to happen, you would be wasting your time possibly, right? So that brings us to the core next part. In video number, I want to say it's probably 6, I lost count. In this series, we'll talk about what other options that are out there, or what Rapid's business beta option is, Business Hub, that actually could help companies such as us publish your API to the larger world out there. Thanks, and don't forget to check out snowpal.com. Thank you.